looks worse, especially during the winter, than our...
So what you're saying is that we have to do a much better job of maintaining the beauty or the condition of the open spaces.
I think you're going to have invisible areas, and if you want to present the township in the best way possible, absolutely, and whether you set some limit for a certain setback or you take out those dead trees. But I mean, there are certain areas, and
Are you saying
where it almost looks like Tunguska after the meteorite.
Okay, I want to make sure that I totally understand what you're looking for. Is you're looking for a program whereby we remove all the dead trees on the open spaces that you can see as you drive by. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm trying to understand what you're really looking for.
Well,
if I could ask a question, what are the rules on Emerald Ash Borer as far as being able to move? I know you've got to stay within a certain area, but what I've wondered for quite some time is why could you not take all those trees and go to somebody like Greening Detroit? There's a nonprofit called Greening Detroit. Have them come in and yank those and turn them into mulch. Or some other nonprofit group that can take these trees, turn them into mulch, and make use of them, and get them off of Grosse Hill.
Let me say, not only that, I'm in the process of working on building a totally environmental house out in Coldwater. And if you have a tree that is not, a cottonwood, many times those trees that have fallen down, I mean, not once they're laying there for 10 years, but I mean, people will take those and make lumber out of it. I mean, they'll pay for it.
Are you saying that we should go through all the open spaces and remove all the dead wood? Or are you saying we should go through the open spaces and remove the dead wood that we can see from the road? I'm trying to understand what you're really looking for.
That's the way I would look at it, is go through and selectively identify areas that need to be cleaned up. I understand the attention to a natural habitat, although I also think that creating a natural habitat, we've got, and now with your population, that we've got to cull on a consistent
This is also a matter of cost, too, when you do something like that.
But I'm wondering whether these things have ever been investigated, whether you've taken a more entrepreneurial approach to the maintenance of.
Do you have some resource that you haven't?
Well, Greening Detroit happens to be one. I know they were engaged in that at one time.
I've been on the board of the Greening Detroit, and I'm on the advisory committee right now.
Oh, excellent.
So that is not their mission at all.
No, I know.
So, I mean, the Greening of Detroit is engaged in planting trees and environmental education and urban agriculture in the city. They don't have the resources to deal with hazard trees in the city of Detroit, let alone in anywhere else. I mean, every community in Michigan that's been hit by the Emerald Ash Borer is dealing with, an over inventory of dead trees. And I also work for DT. I'm retired now. So the whole issue of what do you do with dead ash trees is huge.
Are you saying that in your experience it cannot be turned into lumber?
I'm not that knowledgeable about lumber, but I don't think a dead tree.
No, I'm not saying a dead tree, but how long has it been that the Emerald Ash Borer has been around?
Since about 2000.
Yeah, so that's a long time.
There are some companies that do, that have these portable sawmills and they do urban milling. And Richard Mills on Greenland Road is one. But I think there's still more quantity than
the use for the ones that are long dead is clearly non-existent, I would say, except, I don't know, mulch.
Well, Mr. Bonney, that's what I was going to ask, since you're on this. I mean, what are other communities, how are they dealing with these things? I mean, not everybody, is everybody, I mean, absolutely, everybody is just allowing them to naturally degrade?
many of those communities don't have large tracts
Okay,
of publicly
I
owned.
wanted to ask because of her background, sir.
Right. I mean, when I lived in Huntington Woods, which is very densely populated, just, it's grids and home. So what they did was they removed the hazard trees and ground them up. And that was a huge burden, financial burden on the city. Where we have open spaces and dying trees, I mean, that is more like you're just a real wilderness area where trees fall and you get out of the way. And there's a natural benefit to dead trees. If they're still standing there, they become habitat for cavity nesting birds and animals. And when they fall, then they become food for the decomposers.
There's
and
two
stuff.
sides to every coin, though.
Well, I know, you're right. I agree. It's unattractive.
It's very unattractive.
But
Like I
there's a-
said, coming from Monroe County, everybody gets out there and cuts up those trees as fast as we can. That's what we did.
And they use the firewood.
Yeah. If they were recently, because we didn't let them sit there. We generally did not let them sit there for 10 years.
I
Right.
don't know that, first, just the financial cost of doing that is.
Well, that's
wipe
very
out-
sad that the millage failed. I think you remember that. Yeah.
Well, it was allowed to, if I'm going back at least, I think, 8 to 10 years as far as the maintenance fund was concerned. We had about $600,000 in the fund, and we were spending maybe $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year at that time. And a conscious decision was made not to renew the millage.
I've got those documents in here somewhere.
Yeah, but it goes back a long time. And it was kind of like, quite frankly, I think it was a joint decision. The township said, why should we continue to levy this millage when we're only spending maybe about 5% a year, so we just won't renew it. We haven't
that's too
renewed it
bad.
yet. Yeah.
Well, if we have 350,000, it's going to last a few years. If we get shy, we put it to the voters again. I mean, the voters can always say, yes, we'd like to replenish this again. Right now, we have no shortage of maintenance funds for the foreseeable future.
Well,
When they
but
get-
you're saying you
when they
have no
get-
shortage as long as you're only spending
If we're
30,000 a year.
spending it wisely. The big picture, I don't think it's unreasonable to beautify, and that's the only word I can use, visible areas. And the easiest way to do that is expand the wood cutting projects. That's the cheapest way.
But you only have so many people that want to come out and cut.
Well, we can advertise. I mean, I'm just throwing.
I'm going to have to go up the aisle.
You might.
Yes.
So I'm throwing that out there.
Great idea.
And that's-
Go off the aisle.
That would be kind of a self-solving. Sure.
Yeah.
That would solve part of it.
Yeah.
Once you get into the interior, as Bert said, that's part of the food chain. That's part of nature.
Yeah.
And it does provide nesting opportunities, and the fallen ones provide food there at the lower end of the food chain, but it's all part of nature.
There's one thing that we do have. We do have, each commission has a certain support person on the township staff. And we have our code enforcement officer, Tony Gray. We've set up a program whereby if there's a tree that's endangering life, limb, or property on the open space program, on the open space properties, if it's near your house, or if it's in danger of falling on your car or into your yard, that person calls Tony Gray, and Tony goes out there, looks at it, and that tree is cut down within 24 to 36 hours. So
Well,
we
that's
do
a
it, and
liability issue.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
liability
but
issue.
that's what we're doing.
You got to do that,
Yeah,
really.
but that's what
You
it
couldn't
is.
get away with not.
Yes, ma'am.
We have TNT as a tree company that can come in and cut
That's
trees that
our
are...
blanket, I call it a blanket order storage
Yeah.
for right now.
Yeah.
But can't we, to address her concerns that we look neglected when we have fallen trees that are just there for years, couldn't beef up the maintenance a little bit, spend more than $30,000?
We have
And trim some of those trees?
We have done that, particularly Woody. I believe we've done that on Horse Mill and at Park Lane.
Park Lane, yep.
And we've also done it on Grosse Ile Parkway.
There's a
Now,
couple areas that we're gonna go to next. One is Park Lane, open space, and then on the south side of Park Lane, Horse Mill. There's an area there that trees are there. Somebody cut them down and dropped them there.
I think what you're saying is that we have done a lot, but there's a lot more that we should do. I think that's the message we're getting from you on this.
But we need people.
Well, we need to hire people. I mean, people don't just get up one day and say, I think I'll go and
Yes, they do.
You know,
cut
we're-
down 5 or 6 of
You
10-year-old
and
dead
this-
trees.
You and this commission are on the same side. Seriously. We need influence from people that want to see stuff like that done to a greater scale than they are, stepping up and saying so and convincing voters to do that. Because without money, it doesn't happen. Townships vote what they want done and what they don't want done. But your kind of input is positive input towards doing exactly what we'd like to do more of. I guess, is that a fair?
Absolutely.
We would like to have people like you stepping up and convincing your neighbors that, you know,
That's what
maybe we ought to jack up a little bit of the speed at which we spend that money. Maybe we ought to consider not buying anything other than maintenance funds in a future millage. But it takes people to do that.
I think that what we have to do is do a better job of maintaining the appearance of the open space.
Well, I know Pilkington said, you know, along the roads, but I have a 5-year-old grandson. Sometimes I'd like to just, and we ride our bikes, I'd like to just stop by an open space and say, let's walk in here and be really quiet and see what we can see. But there's very few of them that I would say that about right now. So I guess for me, I'm not just talking about what can we see when we're driving by. I'm talking about your whole open space.
Take a look at the trail guide that was given to you. Go through the wildlife sanctuary, okay, and take a look at that. And go through this area on Meridian Road. Now that's not, there's a trail on Meridian right across from the school, from the Meridian School. Take a look. Now we have plans to extend and improve that trail so it goes all the way to East River Road. And we have to do a better job maintaining the trails that we have. There's no question about that. But take a look, take a walk through. See what
I'm just saying it doesn't, I mean, I appreciate that there are trails. That's excellent. Because some people, you know, need a trail to get through. But if there's those... What?
So I live over on 4th Street, right next to Centennial Farms, and my son spends majority of his time walking the trail, taking the dogs for walks in the trail, cleaning up after him. I mean, he spends a lot of time, and I have no problem telling him to go.
That's the Centennial Farm Trail.
And he feels perfectly safe. You feel perfectly.
I have no problem to take off and go walk the trails.
So what is your concern? I guess I didn't.
Well, I don't have a concern, I'm just interjecting to get her, but
This lady.
because, yeah, I think you already did it.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to know why you felt uncomfortable taking your grandson into the open space.
Well, first of all, I don't know that I would even, I mean, I think we'd have to have whole body suits on. Because there's so many dead trees, giant branches, small branches, dead bushes. I mean, you look at it and you say, oh, no, not here. That's what I'm saying. And that includes the one that's the closest to my house and I could just walk to, except I wouldn't go in there on a bed.
You live near where?
I live near Horse Mill and Meridian.
Horse Mill and
Horse Mill and Meridian.
Actually, I'm
Have you
probably
been on the
closer to Horse
thoroughfare
Mill
area
and
that's very easy
west,
to walk through?
Pardon me?
Thoroughfare, Horse Mill, that whole area you can.
I'm actually
just
near
go through.
to Horse Mill and West River. But still,
Yeah.
I'm talking about, yeah. And then my daughter was telling me that I just saw today, she lives over in church. She said, whenever we go, Mom, There's so much trash there. We have to bring a bag along with us, a lot of liquor bottles, a lot of, excuse me, condoms, and she doesn't even want to take her 5-year-old there to help pick stuff up.
Well, you have hit on at one of the very source points of something we've been battling for years, and that's the misuse of the open spaces by people who have no respect for other people's concerns. And there is a $500 fine for anybody who dumps trash in open spaces. The problem is observing them doing it. That's the problem. Now, are there any more questions about trails before we move on to next topic?
Mine really has to do more with maintenance, but I'd like to come back to the trash on open space. If you're going to address that during maintenance.
Yes. All right, trust me, that's why we're having the town hall meeting here, I'm not going to walk around and say, well, we're through, we're not going to do anything. We are going to do something. That's why we're having the town hall meeting. Okay, the next item we want to talk about is the procurement of additional vacant property. As we said, there's about 519 acres of land that's been set aside for open space. And there's maybe about 120 more acres that are on that might be available for procurement. Now, that does not include areas like the BASF property, which that's the north end of the island. That's not included. But I want to get your feelings about the fact that we have $500,000 in the open space fund for procurement of additional properties. And what is your feeling about buying additional property?
I don't think we need any unless it's a strategic fit, unless it really fits into an overall vision for open space. But simply because it's available, simply because someone has made it available and basically said, I'd like to sell the township my property, I don't think it's necessary to buy anymore. I think we have, over 50 acres per 1,000 residents? I think total parks and rec inventory, we're over 100 acres per 1,000 residents. I mean, we've got a tremendous amount of overall parks.
Yeah, we have 11,000 people, we have 500 acres.
Yes.
10,000.
10,000.
10,200.
Okay.
10,000. And that stacks
I
up.
rounded up.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your optimism.
Plus, we're inside.
Yeah.
We're inside of an international wildlife refuge, and we're not characterized by small lots. And I don't think we need any more. And I think what has come up in some of the discussion today is that we may already have more than is manageable as far as maintenance issues are concerned.
Any other comments?
Before we buy any more, I'd like to see us better utilize, and as Greg pointed out, better maintain those acres we have. I mean, we've discussed what the target properties are, the large spaces that we can add to contiguous open space. But before we do that, let's start using this open space. Let's open it up, per the mission for what's in the rec master plan for educational trails, for access, just for enjoying nature. If she's unsafe walking in the woods, maybe we should make it more inviting to walk in the woods. And I would like to see one, and I'm thinking the Centennial Farm Trail, that we are going to put I'd like to see us put some surface down and make it open up to universal, what we used to call ADA, universal access. As we're the oldest community downriver, and some of us need a little, and all of us will probably at some point, need to be on wheels if we're going to say anything. Why should we exclude a generation of people from access to the woods when for a few bucks we could make parts of the trail hard surface and universally accessible? I'd like to see that happen.
What do you consider hard surface?
Something hard enough that a reasonably sturdy, I don't want to say wheelchair, but for lack of a better word, they do make outdoor-oriented assist wheelchairs.
You're talking about asphalt?
Not necessarily, but maybe compacted gravel, but something, it have to be, suitable to the whatever the vehicle is that we're going to utilize. But we don't have that now. I think we should.
You got motorized vehicles that the young people use, and they could...
Well, they could, they might be drinking. We went through, remember we had the trails discussion, and people were coming out of the woodwork with reasons why we couldn't have trails. But yeah, if this gets into a larger conversation, what we don't have now, with the few trails we have in our extensive open space, is the ability to, A, get law enforcement in there, because we have no means to get law enforcement in there in case there's a problem, or no availability or ability to get rescue in there if somebody's hurt, seriously injured. We can't get a gator or a vehicle of some sort in there to extract an injured individual.
Now, at the nature sanctuary, we just broadened that path.
Okay.
So that is now accessible for emergency evacuation and for trucks to go in and do maintenance for us. So that one is now...
Making progress.
We spent a lot of time on that particular trail, and sadly, we have to do some remedial work on that area.
As this a couple of years ago, we were having this conversation on trails and trail policy, and we have the 4 trails, and Trustee Malvesto's comment is, before we start looking at additional trails, let's make better use of the ones we have. Advertise them, spruce them up, make them valuable to the residents, and hopefully, when more and more residents see the advantage of these trails, what they offer, maybe we'll have public interest in more, and maybe dollars for more.
Any other comments?
See, I guess I just wanted to say, and I don't know, maybe you guys aren't even comfortable with this. I mean, I think about just going in without a trail necessarily. Just kind of exploring on your own. No?
You can. There's nothing to stop you from doing that.
But I mean, right now, right now, like I said, most of the places that I see, I wouldn't go in with an attack dog. Just because of the way, it just looks awful. They look awful.
You need to team up with somebody that's a little bit more familiar with our trails and take you for a walk. Really. It's a lot nicer than what you're thinking.
I'm not talking about your trails. I'm talking about your open
We are not going to groom forests.
We're not going to
groom forests.
I would be willing to go on a walk with you.
What does that mean, groom forest?
If you want all the dead branches and the poison ivy and the undergrowth and the understory removed so that it looks like something out of a Disney cartoon, we're not going to do that. The forest is a forest is a
You never
forest.
said so. It looks like something out of it.
Well, I put that in there to emphasize, the difference between what a natural regrown forest looks like versus something what I'm interpreting is your vision. It's it.
I think it's a good point here that maybe you could take a walk.
I'd be willing to take a walk with you and we'll check them out.
We'll do that.
Because I have actually fallen in love with the open space, which is why I volunteered to be on it. My son is on an open space committee in the Boston area, and he's the one that first took me on nature trails. Since then, I have been visiting nature trails in Alpena and all throughout the state at various gardens. And again, it's the interpretation of stewardship, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to have these meetings. The initial concept of stewardship was to keep it all natural. What falls, falls, and it stays. What seems to be happening now, that people are getting out in the environment more and they're wanting to use it differently. They're not necessarily Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, mountaineers. We're seeking input from you folks to tell us what you think of it, how can you enjoy it, what can we reasonably do, and that's the key. What can we reasonably do to make people appreciate the wonderful environment we have. And I'll walk with you and we'll see what we can do.
Let me ask you this. Do we need 520 acres to be able to do that? Do we need an inventory of 520 acres of open space?
Well, we have what we have.
I know, but do we need 520 acres to make people aware of the beauty of open space?
I guess the beauty is, in other words, if I know I'm prejudiced, I would say yes, we do need 520 acres because that's what the people, through their support of the open space village, they wanted to have areas set aside to remain in their natural area. Many people, when they come to the island, they said, I never realized that you have so many green areas. It's like going from when you drive onto the island and you look for the island from an aerial view. There's all green. It looks green. It's a beautiful place to live. And I would answer your question by saying, do we need 520 acres? We need it because that's what the people told us we needed. Through their approval of open space villages to buy vacant property so it could be maintained as natural space. That's one of the three things, and I know I'm pontificating now, that make this community a beautiful place to live.
All I'll tell you is this. I've been here for 25 years.
Yeah, I've been here 50.
I voted for it. No question. I know I'm a newbie. But I voted for open space.
It took me 30 years to not become a newbie.
Okay, but I voted for open space. I don't think we need as much of the open space as we've got, and I would choose some different open space. This was not my vision of open space.
I'm going to agree with Greg that I know we have the money, but inevitably members of a township board decide how it's spent. And much of it, I think, has been done prudently. Some, it's a little questionable.
Yes.
I agree with Brian on some strategic planning for the future. They don't build dams and rivers with a 5-year window. They look at a 30-year. And what he's saying there is if people want to retire here and you're 80 or 90 years old, you want to have access to some of these things as when you were younger. And as far as your comment about what open space mission is, that was voted on, if I remember, in 92 or 93. And the definition I had in my mind when I voted on it was green, look at open space, and kind of halt development, because I think that was the initial intent, if you really wanted to get to the truth behind it, was to slow down development. But all the other infrastructure grew around that slowing down of the development. So as a result, we have a lot of police, a lot of fire, a lot of equipment, a lot of sewage treatment plants, etc., for a larger population than we have. So I think the question really that you're asking is what is their perception now of what they want with open space? Because over time, as people age and younger people come, the need and the use of that land is going to change. And I think the only way you can get that is spend a very low percentage of your budget, $5,000, to take a survey from a professional like MRI that does political surveys. $5,000 will give you the true definition of what the people really want here in 2014, not 1993. That's ancient. Half of those people probably don't even live here anymore, or they passed on. So you're dealing with an old perception, old information, and I think what you should do if you really want to find out what the people want is get new information on the current perception of open space and greenways, and how does it all fit together?
I would agree with that as well. And there's some good surveys. I'm sorry.
Pat, you can weigh in on the survey issue. You can weigh in on the survey issue.
Oh, all right.
Pam, you have a question? Quick question.
Well, I think this is the purpose of your town hall meeting.
Exactly.
That's right.
This is
Get
step
informed.
one.
But as far as the remaining money in the open space funds, I would say hang on to it until there's a special piece that we don't want to lose. And I want to put forth something that I've been hoping for in the future would be to preserve Westcroft Gardens, which some of it has already been sold off for development, but there's still the gardens that have been there since the 20s. And I've talked to Denise DeBose, and she said her brother's coming to town this summer, and they will have a family decision whether they would want to. She wouldn't release the sales part because that's part of their business, but the gardens have been a terrible outlay of money to keep it open for the public, and we've enjoyed that since 1920. To have Westcroft Gardens to walk through, enjoy the azaleas, the rhododendrons, and I would hate to see that lost. So I would say hang on to the 500,000 plus that is in the account now until something comes up that we certainly don't want to lose.
I'm sorry, Pat, go ahead.
Ernie, the last time you brought up this survey, if you recall, at a previous meeting that you attended, we told you that we were having several ways of getting information from the community. One was going to be town hall. One was going to be going around to different organizations. One was going to be actually going and standing in Kroger's and various places and polling people. We also said that we looked into doing a survey, and we were told by other commissions and committees on the island that when they had tried to do surveys with paid consultants helping them, the consultants told them that surveys were no longer the best way to gather information. People have been surveyed to death. We were going to do a survey. Brian Pollock and I spent almost all last year looking into this, and we both decided that the survey was not the way to go. Now, if after we use every outlet that we're planning on using, and we still don't feel comfortable, we may resort to a survey. But in the meantime, since I have had such negative input, we're going to put that at the bottom last resort thing.
Who were these professionals? What company?
I would have to look it up.
I'd appreciate having that list because I've contacted
Fine,
some.
I will get that.
They can predict political outcomes with 1%. Come on.
I agree with that as well, especially if you're going to have credible qualitative data. I mean, you've got to be able to go out and make sure that you're getting data from every one of the demographics. And to get it from Kiwanis or Rotary or the GINLC isn't going to be any more credible than if you sat down and asked the Groseal Youth Recreation Association what we should do with open space.
The thing is that you want to get enough people responding. All right. The last time we sent one out, we had 20% respond. The committees that tried to do it in the past 2 years have had 1 to 2% response to their surveys.
Well, I'm aware of one.
I don't know what sources they use, but I will get it for you.
You'd have to look across the country. There's a lot of open space programs all across the country. And they use various techniques to get this information. I'd suggest you survey some of them and look at how they got their results. And then maybe try to replicate it. We don't have all the answers here.
I believe from the last meeting that you were going to send me that information so I could do that. And I think you know my email.
I
have been waiting, by the way, for that.
I will send it to you.
So you send that to me and I'll send the other.
Are there any other comments about the procurement of additional vacant property? Yes.
The other piece of property that I would like to suggest in the future is on Bridge Road opposite the planting that the Groseal Bridge Company did, which is beautifully landscaped. The other side has that neglected look. And I understand that property is vacant. And I think it would be dress up the entrance and the exit from the toll bridge if Open Space Committee could dress up the opposite side of the open, well, it's not open space, but if it could be purchased as open space.
We have talked about that before, and you are correct in that the south side of Bridge Road, as you come off the bridge, needs work. And I think I asked a number of times to use a paradigm shift or a fancy word, which is a fancy word for thinking out of the box. Call the owner of that property. Ask him or her for their permission to go in and clean that area up. It would still belong to them. We would clean it up, we could landscape it, look at nice, it wouldn't be necessary to buy it, and just see what she says. We might have to give her some other kind of remuneration, I don't know, but I think a simple phone call would say, as a public service, would you let us come in and dress that area up so that the south side of Bridge Road looks just as good as the north side? Try it. See what you think.
Would the improvement come out of open space?
I don't think it would be beautification or something.
It could be open space or beautification.
Yeah, if we...
Or joint.
Let's take the first step first. Let's give her a call and see if we can say go back 20 feet or 30 feet or whatever. From the bridge to Meridian. And we'd go in there and we'd hire a landscaper or designer and just clean that area. Give her a call, see what she thinks.
Do you have a contact number?
Well, I think Carol would know who it is.
We do.
Yeah. So
We've contacted them about open space purchase, but there's some
Yeah.
big deltas between buyer and seller.
we've talked about this before, Pam, if somebody made a phone call and they may tell us no way, they may tell us we might, they may tell us yes, but make the call.
Pretty good at talking people into doing things.
Okay, now, are we through talking about additional vacant property? Any more comments about buying property?
Just
Yeah.
one. I understand we haven't done environmental assessments on some of the properties that we purchased. I think we should do certainly environmental assessments on any property that's purchased by the open space program that becomes property of the township. And whether that be an initial affirmation, whether it be a phase one environmental, and I'm not sure what the cost would be.
I don't know what phase 1 or phase 2 is, but...
Well, I think
Okay.
that the EPA has something out now called all appropriate inquiries.
This is what
Which
I
I
go
think the
for,
state of
apply
Michigan is
for.
adopting to a degree. And if you pursue this, and if you follow these steps, you're basically shielding yourself, or the township would be shielding itself from liability post-acquisition if they follow these steps. Now, I
Are you
understand
talking
that a lot
about
of
future properties that we might buy?
Yes. I mean, we can't very well go back and change what's already been purchased. But I think that would be the prudent thing.
Okay. So you want us to do an environmental analysis of any future properties that might be bought for open space? What about for any other purpose?
I'm sorry, it's
Other purpose? The township of...
other than open space. Well, I would think it's all smart
Okay.
to do an environmental assessment.
Okay. Now, if we're finished talking about the procurement of additional vacant property, and I think we've been talking about this next subject already to some degree, and that's the care, protection, and maintenance of the property that we have. And I think we've talked about that to some degree. Are there any additional comments as far as care and maintenance of the protection of the property that we currently own? Yes.
You did not look up for your finishing of the other question. You were reading your next question when you asked for additional comments. there's information in files that it was highly recommended that Phase 1 and Phase 2 studies be done before procurement of said properties were acquired. And those were recommended with letters from the township attorney. But due to business conditions, it wasn't done. I'd like to pursue that at a future date.
Okay.
Is that something that your commission would even decide upon? I mean, that's a question that would normally go to the board of trustees, would
In terms of,
the decision,
whether or not to execute on a,
they make the decision.
The township board decides what we'll spend and what conditions we will use before we buy.
certainly, but I mean, it is a decision made as a body. And not just a few people are.
No, it's a
Our
decision
talk
made
to,
as a township.
Okay, good.
Pam?
Could I ask a financial question? The $529,000, does that draw interest so that it would still be more money, say, in 5 years from now?
Treasurer question.
How much is one point?
Drawn about, 1-2% on it right now, short term. We were limited as to what we can invest in that long term as public funds. But yeah, it's drawn interest, but nothing I write home about.
All right, let's go to the next, care, protection, and maintenance of the property. Now, we've been, that's been interlaced with a lot of comments that have been made about the open space program. Are there any additional comments anybody wants to make about care or protection or maintenance of open space property? Things we're not doing, things that we should be doing, or things we're doing wrong, or things we're doing right?
The question is, how often do you guys walk through there to make sure everything's safe and cleaned up?
We go through maybe about once a year.
And when you do those walks, besides looking down the trail, you also look up and make sure there's no hanging branches getting ready to fall on people, right?
We walk, my area is, I call it the Manchester Woods. That's the name we've given it. About, I'm sorry, I don't know. It's about 200, what is it, about 140 acres or something? It's about 140, 160 acres. I go through there once a year. When I go through, not the trail, but I go through the main, just go through the woods. And I think it's a little better shape than it used to be.
I want to, since this safety comes up again, I'd like to know what is the expectation of safety in a forest? What is it safe? Is it safe? Is it safe from what? Is it safe from bear attacks? Is it safe from earthquakes, landslides? Safe from what?
Well, a forest is, if you
Forest is a forest is a forest.
Yeah.
So there are things you expect in a forest. Forest means there's trees. Trees means there are branches. Branches fall down.
It's probably, let me tell you, that the biggest problem that we used to have, and I think we still have, is trash.
Yes.
And forts that some of the kids build.
So we had the paintball war area for a while.
Yeah. Now, go through about once a year. Now, whether that's too much, not enough, but that's what we do. Maybe we should do more.
I know we had a bunch of kids that used to park in front of my house and go play in Centennial Farms. And we convinced them not to leave.
I have to be, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, so I'm going to anyway. When you get old, you have a little more latitude. Quite frankly, the Centennial Farm open space area has been the most difficult area for us to maintain in terms of encroachment, in terms of trash, in terms of damage to trees and so forth, of any open space in Grosse Hill.
I can see that.
And it's a shame. It's a nice area. And what a beautiful place it is, because it's right next to the recreation area. You got that little, looks like a farm, And you walk into the open space and you see, first thing you see is trees that have been called girdled, you know, and you see trash, and it's been a very troublesome area for us.
Well, to answer your question, excuse me, we do look up and report on hazard trees, but like Cliff said, I mean, it's only once or twice a year that we're out there surveying. So, you know, we need more eyes on the ground and people that use it. I don't know if we need to post a website or just more publicity, you know, if you see something.
I think something like that, just for, because I mean, I know a lot of people in my neighborhood are in Centennial Farms open space a lot. And if they see something, they don't know who to report it to. Your first point of contact would be the code enforcement officer. Depending on what it is, you might want to notify the police if it's a gross violation. But I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but wouldn't Tony Gray be the first one to call if you see somebody?
Yeah, he would be probably the best bet. If you see a meth lab, that would be a police department call. I wouldn't be, you know.
I have my own people to take care of it.
Okay, all right. But again, I'm circling back to the question is, what in a forest constitutes a safe environment? What safety does one expect entering a natural forested area? And I don't know the answer. You know, that's a rhetorical question. I don't know the answer.
I agree with your question. The problem comes is, you know, as she was saying, if someone walks in there and there's a giant widowmaker just hanging from a tree getting ready to fall, and it just happens to take, even though it's been there for years, it takes that time that you're there.
Yeah.
I mean, the
only thing, Brian, that we have looked up, and there's a lot of this on the internet, is what constitutes safety and hazards for natural trails. And that is where we put our emphasis, that the path is...
The trails need to be,
forests,
but for the rest, just walking off into the dense...
we haven't done that.
Yeah, I don't think that we have any idea, nor should we have the idea, that we should be responsible for you walking through the forest. You should be responsible for you walking through the forest.
Quote, my favorite quote of Justice Thomas, an activity can be safe without being risk-free.
Amen.
And, you know, nature, as we said, nature isn't always pretty, or what we think of as pretty. But it is what it is. It's nature.
Right.
All right, I think you're next.
I think I understand the policy that evolved here in the last few minutes. Enter at your own risk. Park your car where you may, in safety, and realize that there is a risk going into a natural area that's not developed as even a trail. It's just natural forest. And enter at your own risk. And anything that may happen to you, you're responsible. And I've seen those in parks, national parks.
Yeah, and that's why I said earlier that when we issue our next open space guide, it'll have that very statement in the first page, and be written in clear English so that everybody can understand it.
You could rent hard hats, maybe. Well, that's a source of revenue.
How do you keep the trash cleaned up? How do you keep trash cleaned up in open space?
Well, one of two ways. Either we pick it up ourselves, or if it's a big area, then we might hire our the TNT services to go in and clean it up.
Can I make a suggestion? I think it's Kiwanis every spring has the cleanup. I think the island cleanup, which is wonderful. But I sent my daughters out about 10 days after that to Frenchman's Creek, and they picked up several bags of trash within about 40 minutes. And I think there's a possibility, because you've got some funds, right? You said hiring TNT.
Yeah. It depends on what it is. You know, if it's, as I said before.
I'm just talking about trash. We had water bottles, Bud bottles. Bud Light apparently is real popular on the...
This was in the open space?
Oh, gosh, yeah.
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 You know,
Well,
I live on East River Road,
Frenchman's Creek?
which is a very
Creek. Well,
high
I'm sorry.
traffic area.
I apologize. At the end of South Point or going towards coming here?
Are you recommending something similar to what the Kiwanis does for the open space program?
Well,
Yeah.
as great as
That's why
that
we
is,
need to.
I don't think it's often enough. And I think the potential exists for you to possibly engage some of the school.
Okay, would you volunteer,
Or,
would you volunteer to help us?
well, I can certainly throw it out there as an idea and sort of put it through to maybe a couple of.
Good, okay.
Okay. That's what
Would
we-
you be willing
Yes.
to make a donation to, if you had a school group and they wanted to volunteer 20 people on a Saturday, would you be willing to make a donation, an in-kind donation, or, something to them for their services in helping you clean up, in helping us keep open space clean?
Let's consider something else. I started to say that we live on East River Road. Now, many of us walk that area. The whole group of us, when we walk it, we carry our trash bag. Our area is litter-free. Nobody pays us to do it. There's pride in your community. Now, I think it might be a good idea to consider setting up some friends of the open space and have them work to go through and help pick up litter and things of that nature. We have friends up in the Alpena area. It's all retirement area, and those people are friends of the wildlife trail that's 15 miles long. And those people keep that trail clean and free because they have pride in their trail. I've been reading on the internet about more people who are having friends of the trails, friends of open spaces, and I've been thinking about starting something like that on Grosio. We shouldn't have to pay people to help keep our area beautiful. Take pride in it.
But you
If
do
you're
not,
walking,
correct?
carry a trash bag, pick it up.
Okay, but
We even do that when we walk in Macomb.
you do now. You pay.
No, I think,
No,
I think.
Oh, you don't pay.
What Cliff
we
said.
don't pay them.
What I said is that if we see trash when we're going through their areas, we'll pick it up. But if it's something like
Old refrigerator.
like an old refrigerator or a complete front-end suspension of a vehicle that I've seen in some of our open spaces, you can't pick that up. You have to hire somebody to go in and get rid of it.
However it's executed, I think that's wonderful. I think if people, like again, my daughters and I were out picking it up. And if you can get people to do that, I think that's great, but it has to be on a consistent basis.
I think we're beyond the point where we want to pay somebody to do everything. I think we have to start looking at what can we do to keep our community beautiful.
Well,
It's not that hard.
Picking up litter.
Let me just ask one question. Do we have any responses on the internet?
No.
No? Okay, all right. Yes, Pam?
I'm a Kiwanian, and I just wrote a note that besides a all-on cleanup in April, maybe we can do more than once a year. So I propose this to the Kiwanians.
Some of the work done there, to the credit of Kiwanians, is to keep Grosio beautiful girls. If you give people places to throw away the trash, most of them will throw it in barrels. I saw yesterday, driving past the bike path by the golf course, there's an empty barrel, and right next to it, 20 feet away on the bike path, 2 Slurpee cups just dropped. So you can't guarantee it, but if you give them a place to put trash, and we do pick up that trash with regularity, that the trash removal service does that as they go down the street on a weekly basis, that helps. But getting people involved, and I think it's a great idea. I have one more question. There's only one person in this room who hasn't had anything to say yet tonight. And His initials are Ingo Hazarat. And I'd love to hear your input.
I agree with most of those suggestions. Unfortunately, some of the properties that we should pick up are too expensive. I'm thinking about the Purdue properties. Those would be lovely to get, but she wants too much money. Maybe she will sell part of it, I don't know.
You gotta remember half of it's underwater.
Nature too.
Yeah, very true. Why should it be underwater property?
Yes.
A trail suggestion that I thought would be a good addition in the future, maybe. We now own, and I think it's a fairly recent purchase, property that goes from East River Road to Meridian. So that's a whole stretch of woods that maybe a nice trail through there would get people out walking and enjoying the long walk.
Yeah, as I said before, that's one of the things that we're going to take a look at extending that very trail. It goes in from Meridian here and it goes back to a creek, stops, and we're going to make sure we don't go on private property, of course. See if we can extend that trail all the way east river. That's one of the things we're
We have to get the township board to approve a trail policy, which we tried to do numerous times.
We have,
So we get that, we can't do any trails.
Woody's right on the philosophy of the trail policy. We as a township board need to readdress that. And the other thing that we need to tie into the program, I've heard so much comment about trash. We got a blight ordinance too. We got a blight initiative. This is as good committee as any. We need to charge on some of that.
Check the price.
Got to check the price up.
In the works.
Between $50 to $500 or $1,000.
Well,
Well, just get in their pocket.
Yeah, I'm sure all of you are aware of the fact that if anybody is found dumping trash on any open space property, it's a $500 fine. And that's been enforced for years.
Finding them and doing it too is that.
I think you can also use the township communication platforms, whether it be GITV or the website or a number of other things, channels, to send out positive reinforcing messaging about keeping open space clean. That's all.
Are there any other comments or questions? I think this has been a good discussion. I think we've got some pretty positive ideas, good ideas, things that we should be thinking about. And I think we're going to be summarizing those and then we're going to present it to the township board. And that's our next step, of course.
Would that be an advisory? Will there be action steps? So what do you expect?
I think what I believe we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to try to condense and summarize it as much as we can. And we're going to say, we had 2 town hall meetings. These are the issues that were brought up. Okay? And then maybe these are recommendations.
Okay. We're looking for it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I think it's been a good session. And we appreciate Brian and Ted taking time off their busy days to be with us this evening. It's been a good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cliff.